That or not. Oh yeah, he did.
Hey there, gamers.
Almost perfect. Of course he loves it.
Dreamcast Guy here. Today we're talking about 007 First Light because I've been playing it. I have been loving it, but it's not quite perfect. I feel like as good as this game is, and as much as it is just a delight to not just play the missions, but to replay the missions, it falls into the pitfalls of a lot of other stuff by the studio. This is a new take on James Bond by the people that did the Hitman games. And anybody who's played this, these are some of the greatest stealth action sandboxes literally ever created. Times where you're dropped into a level with a target and literally thousands of different ways to take them down.
Dreamcast Guy doesn't spoil anything, FBI, because he doesn't get more than 2 hours into the game.
Poisons and bombs and hacking, and they take that idea, streamline it, and add in a lot more action, but it also still kind of bumps into the same barriers. Now, this new take on James Bond is incredibly different. It is incredibly bold. It feels like a combination of like Uncharted 4 and 007 GoldenEye on the Nintendo 64 in the best way possible. But let me talk about the goods and the bads. I hope you're having a great day. If you could, please give this video a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Now, we're going to break this into 3 separate chunks because this game is surprisingly big. We're going to talk first about the story, without any spoilers, of course, the crazy combat, and finally, some technical details that I feel like this game is impressively beautiful. It has some really impressive parts that need to be highlighted. But let's start with that story, right? Now, in this, playing as a young James Bond, at the start of this game, you're not even actually 007 yet. You're just a random airman,
Really?
special forces guy behind enemy lines when suddenly your helicopter, during the course of a special mission, gets shot down. Suddenly, you get a call from MI6. You're the only survivor, and they say, hey, look, there was actually a top secret package, a secretive super weapon way over there. You have to find it. You have to make sure it's properly taken out. And I like the fact that this introduction to James...
The combat is a shittier version of Arkham Asylum's. So basically, it's every single third-person action game produced post-2013. Brutal, man.
Bond is just a very lucky, very lethal, very plucky, charming guy. This version of James Bond might be one of my favorites ever. I'm still a bigger fan of Pierce Brosnan. I always like the gadget run-and-gun version of James Bond, but this guy just feels so good in the role. Having him sort of grow up as James Bond. What's interesting about this, like thematically, at the start of the game during that first mission, you get your face badly cut. The explosion that shot down your helicopter cuts your face badly. And throughout the course of training, those first early missions, making friends, trying to not just heal physically, but emotionally, it's cool watching it slowly seal into the scar, and even the scar actually fades quite a bit throughout that years of training to become 007. But what works exceptionally well about this game is that there's so much different stuff for James Bond to bounce off of. I like the fact that...
Whoa! Okay.
During this like 007 training and a lot of
Hell
the early
yeah,
missions, you do have people to work with you. Different spies, different contacts, different stuff, and everything
He
is evolving on the
bounces
fly.
on it,
Sometimes
bro.
you'll literally be out drinking with your friends and they text you and say, hey, there's somebody, there's a traitor, there's a rat in the club.
I don't even really like James Bond that much. I mean, the movies are okay to watch from time to time, but I don't know. I've never really been a huge fan.
Right now. Find them and take them out. And you have a choice. Do I want to start climbing balconies? Do I want to start eavesdropping? Do I want to try and flirt with a hot girl at the bar and pump her for information? This game is just...
Pump her for information. Okay.
So effortlessly charming and so freeform how it happens. Like, I decided, just for the fun of it, I started flirting with girls at the bar. Next thing I know, somebody's angry boyfriend is trying to fist fight me in the bathroom while I'm talking on the phone with high command. I like the fact that this feels like a new
What the fuck happened with the AI there?
genre of Bond, and I like the fact that it takes place in modern day. It's cool seeing like a young, really defiant, like anti-authority sort of like version of James Bond, but still in the era of cell phones, right? It's cool that they didn't try and like restart it in a different timeline. It feels cool that it's, hey, here's a new canon, a new idea behind James Bond. And I really like all the gadgets, all the functionality, all of it just works so incredibly well. But this does bring me to the tiny downside of it. This game still has the villain problem. A lot of stuff that IOI does. I think that IOI Interactive does great. I like a lot of their games, but this does have the problem where everything is just kind of loosey-goosey. A lot of the bad guys are sort of like, oh, this guy's a super terrorist who used to be one of us and now he's off running the world. There's
Have you never watched James Bond movies before? Because that's quite literally the plot of like 99% of them.
a lot of like loose excuses about why you get to end up in like driving through deserts or climbing mountains.
That's the entire point of the fucking franchise. Come on, bruh.
Or being in these snowy drifts. There's a very loose excuse to it that I feel like, as charming as James Bond is, as cool as a lot of the connections are,
James Bond has never been a serious franchise, bro. It's always been just an over-the-top action spy movie. It is not meant to be, like, realistic.
Felt like there just wasn't quite that sense of, hey, here's why this guy's got to go down. And sometimes, especially in the boss fights, which I don't want to show because they are spoilers, sometimes it doesn't really connect, like, thematically, why we're doing any of this, if I'm being brutally honest. But let's talk combat, right? This game has a totally different, literally entirely new style of like gameplay compared to anything that iOS has ever done. This is completely new. It does not just play like Hitman 3 or it doesn't feel like a Hitman 4. This is a completely new game. I think a lot of this comes down to the fact that it's not just a run and gun, right? You know, obviously in Hitman, your goal is to just kill a target. That's it. And you can poison them or, you know, strangle them or trap them in an elevator or whatever, right? But here, since James Bond isn't just trying to run and gun, a lot of times he's trying to do evac or get intel or just sort of slip away, right? I like the fact that while you're going around this does still have that sandbox system. You'll have a giant like 4-story hotel with tons of windows to climb out of and people to question and disguises to steal and key cards to pickpocket, but it feels much more streamlined. The sandbox gameplay that the studio is so famous for a lot of times felt overly complicated at times. Like if you wanted to poison somebody, you couldn't just find poison. You'd have to make it or steal it or something, right? Here, I like the fact that there are always James Bond gadgets to have. You can bring 3 into every mission. You can bring stuff like a pocket watch that's able to shoot lasers and disarm people, or my favorite thing of all is there's like a little dart that poisons people. And it's great because when you poison people, you can steal stuff from their pockets or do it to a guard. And then, of course, they're incapacitated, so you can sneak past like one particular checkpoint. I like the fact that it gives you a lot more tools, so you can just be James Bond, go from objective to objective, and a lot of times it's still very, very open. This is not streamlined down to death. A lot of times there is an objective, hey, find this guy, hey, investigate this, but it's not just to go from A to B to C. Even now, I have seen at least 10 different paths that I could have taken that I just didn't. I mean, this is very much about replayability, and I'm also curious about speedruns, because Hitman speedruns were always hilarious. The amount of people that figured out that if you punch one guy, jump over one barrier, you can beat a mission in 12 minutes. People are going to be doing absolutely crazy stuff in this game. They're actually already hinting about extra, maybe DLC pathways or extra missions. That all looks very, very good to me. Now, when it comes to stuff actually hitting the fan, right, we're talking, what if you aren't able to sneak around? What if something does go terribly awry or you get spotted behind enemy lines? Well, I think both the melee combat is surprisingly fun, but so is just the actual shooting. Let me talk about the shooting first, right? So when you're shooting people, all the guns have like almost no ammo. We're talking like usually they have literally like 1.5 clips of ammo. And this is brilliant design because it makes it where if stuff goes bad enough that you're actually having to shoot, things are usually really, really going south. So I like the fact that a lot of times it's like shoot one guy, stun one dude, use a gadget to incapacitate somebody, scoop up the assault rifle, shoot the third guy. I like the fact that there is this like free-form chaos that still manages to feel like the sandboxiness of the stealth applied to the shooting, especially in...
I don't know, dude. This just looks so generic to me.
Some set pieces.
I don't know. There's just like nothing I've seen in this makes me go, yeah, dude, I want to play that.
This does straight up have Uncharted.
It just looks like yet another movie game with, you know, half-assed kind of combat sprinkled in.
Style set pieces. Like they're by far my favorite scene in the game is you run, you steal a truck, jump onto a plane as it's taking off, like Mission Impossible style, and then you hack the controls of it so you can steer the plane from the tail and you start literally tipping it. You can get everybody to fall out. You're getting in fights and stuff. Of course, you end up crashing in. You're falling down, punching people, stealing parachutes on the way down to the ground.
Dude, it's
It
just
is
like
so
Uncharted.
freaking cool. But there's also the melee combat. I really like the fact that when you're getting into fistfights, there is sort of this system to it where you can, whenever it's flashing red, you have to dodge it. Whenever it's flashing yellow, you can do a counterattack. There's grabs, there's finishers, and you can also still, again, just use your very limited gadget battery to stun or disconnect. I like the fact that it's also that people don't just immediately radio for help. I like the fact that if you really get into a fight and clean it up quick enough, you can get away without them calling for backup. I like the fact that it's not immediately mission failed. This feels so organically dynamic. It feels maybe not quite James Bondy just because you are able to be so ruthless at times. But my gosh, if this does not feel like the true Uncharted 5, which for me has been something I have been craving
Jeez.
badly. It's so cool to go and like start lying to people and sneaking over barriers and trying to take down targets and just really exploring these levels, because whether it goes good or whether it goes bad, it does feel good of like just surviving terrible encounter after terrible encounter. But again, to loop back, those boss fights, not very good. The boss fights are not very well explained. A lot of times it's literally just like, here's a giant albino that you have to fight. Whoa, punch him a bunch, right? It's not just that they're badly designed. I just feel like they feel so out of place compared to how well designed everything else is. But let me talk a bit about the technical aspects of it.
Why the fuck are there even boss fights in a James Bond? Like, I don't know, bro. Modern devs and shit.
This game, I'm playing it on the PlayStation 5 Pro. This game runs ridiculously well. We're talking 0 frame drops ever, 0 pop-in.
0 frame drops ever, 0 like, why is he just like, I don't know, just say it runs well, dude. I don't know.
Every facial animation, every bit of like suave silliness, every flirty glance, everything about
I can see a disgusting amount of motion blur.
this game is just, I'm going to say it. This game feels so
Wait, what was that? There's no way, right?
Game feels so horny.
So horny? Hold on.
I'm going to say it. This
Okay, it was just a glare. I was
game
going to
feels
say,
so
it would be ironic if there was pop-in right when he said that.
horny. Like, in a fun way, right? Everybody is just so charming. You'll run into other spies. You're going on other missions. Everybody is just having the absolute time in their lives. And that's what's so fun about James Bond, right? When you're reading like the old Ian Fleming books from the 70s or watching the James Bond movies, the fun of it is, hey, here's this chaotic, crazy adventure where everybody is just yucking it up. And I feel like it's crazy that they not only managed to modernize it, they managed to make it all playable. Every bit of this looks gorgeous, plays gorgeous, is gorgeous. I love this game. But now I got to do the hard part, right? Overall,
A 9.
I had a good time, but now I have to try and figure out how to go over to the ratings board and put a big number on it. I am giving 007 First Light
Whoa!
a 9.5
Whoa,
out
dude.
of 10. Thank you so much for watching,
A
gamers. If you
0.5,
enjoyed this video,
huh?
be sure to give it a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and please keep dreaming. Absolutely, this game is worth the money. Absolutely. Man, if you're looking for like a new stealth crazy game, if you've been wanting an Uncharted 5, guess what? It's here, and it's suaver than ever. Thanks for watching. You guys rock. Like the video. Subscribe if you haven't already, and please keep dreaming. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, you know, subscribe and see
Dude,
what's coming up next. Also,
The standard has dropped through the fucking floor. That's all I can say.